Hello, and today, I'm bringing you the latest 2025 Spanish thriller Instinct. Leo opens the door, expecting to grab his takeout order, but instead he's greeted by two armed robbers. Meanwhile, his pregnant wife Maggie is gently rubbing her belly when she suddenly hears commotion behind her and panics. The bigger robber, Big Tony, glances at the TV and orders them to turn it off, but Maggie can't find the remote, so Big Tony cocks his gun and shoots the TV himself. He then demands Leo hand over his wallet, and Maggie points to where it is. But when the female robber Carla searches through Maggie's purse, she finds no money inside. This infuriates Big Tony, who now demands the couple surrender their watches and rings. However, Maggie's pregnancy has caused her ring to get stuck on her swollen finger. Big Tony pulls out a knife and asks if she needs help removing it. Thankfully, in this critical moment, Maggie manages to slip the ring off, but Big Tony isn't satisfied with these small items minus clearly someone living in a mansion like this has much more wealth. Leo points to a bust sculpture behind him, but Big Tony doesn't believe it's worth $5,000 and angrily smashes it against the wall. He then raises his gun and threatens to shoot Maggie and the baby if Leo doesn't start talking. Seeing his wife and unborn child threatened, Leo reluctantly reveals there's a safe in his office. Big Tony leaves Carla to watch Maggie while he goes with Leo to check out the safe. To comfort Maggie, Carla asks whether the baby is a boy or girl, but clearly Maggie doesn't know yet. Once Leo opens the safe, Big Tony forces him at gunpoint to stand against the wall. Big Tony discovers a bank statement showing $250. Darrowan excitedly shares this news with Carla, but it's Friday, and banks are closed for the weekend. Leo suggests writing a check, but Big Tony immediately rejects this idea. The two robbers step aside to discuss their options, then inform the couple that it looks like they'll all be spending the weekend together. Hearing this, Maggie becomes frantic, but Big Tony's weapon quickly silences her. Leo then says he'll cooperate as long as they don't hurt the baby. Big Tony instructs Scarlett to disable the alarm system and emergency button, and asks if anyone is expected to visit over the weekend. But before they can answer, the doorbell rings. Maggie explains it's the takeout she ordered. Big Tony puts a hat on Leo to cover his head wound and sends him to get the food. As the delivery driver hands over the order, he notices Leo's injury and mentions it with concern. Fortunately, Leo thinks quickly and claims he accidentally bumped his head, fooling the driver. Leo watches the delivery person leave, then reluctantly closes the door. Meanwhile, Carla notices a car parked outside and suggests moving it to the garage, but Big Tony is more interested in the pizza toppings and doesn't hear what she's saying. He then asks Leo if there's a basement in the house. After getting confirmation, he decides to lock the couple downstairs, but Maggie protests that her pregnancy means she might need the bathroom frequently and can't stay down there. Big Tony thoughtfully provides Maggie with a bucket for bathroom needs, then leaves the basement. Hearing the door lock, Maggie has an emotional breakdown, but Leo stays calm and comforts his wife. However, when Maggie sees the wound on Leo's head, she pulls herself together and starts cleaning it for him. Just then, they hear sounds from above and realize the robbers have probably moved the car into the garage. Maggie suddenly remembers that yesterday on their way home from the hospital prenatal checkup, this same car had rudely cut them off. Today, during their walk, the robber's car had driven past their house, minus clearly this was a premeditated robbery. In the next moment, Maggie pulls out a baby monitor to check the surveillance feed. Leo is stunned minus it turns out when Leo went to get the takeout, Maggie had secretly slipped the monitor into her pocket, but Leo panics, knowing that if the robbers discover this, neither of them will survive. Fortunately, the monitor shows no sign of the robbers at the moment, so Maggie lies down next to Leo to rest. The next day, Maggie is awakened by sounds coming through the monitor. She struggles to stand up and check, and through the robbers' conversation, the couple learns that these two are convicted murderers who were just released from prison. Even more terrifying, they've decided that after getting the money on Monday, they won't leave any witnesses behind minus that way they'll never have to return to prison. Hearing this, Maggie becomes extremely agitated, but Leo quickly comforts her and helps her calm down. However, Maggie insists they need to escape from this place, but the robbers have taken away all the tools, and they simply can't break down the basement door. Fortunately, Leo reassures Maggie that they can use these 2 days to come up with a plan. As long as they help the robbers get their money, they won't have to lose their lives. At this point, Maggie remembers the spare key, but Leo explains it was left upstairs in the living room. Coincidentally, Maggie suddenly recalls that she had made plans with a friend to hang out today. If her friend comes inside, it would be a complete disaster, so the two of them start shouting loudly. Thankfully, they successfully attract the robbers' attention. After Maggie explains the situation, Big Tony angrily warns that if they're lying, both of them will face dire consequences. He hands over his phone for Maggie to call and cancel the plans, but there's no signal in the basement, so she has to go upstairs. However, the female robber, Carla, stops Leo and makes him stay behind. When Maggie reaches the living room and makes the call, her friend says she's already at the front door. Sensing trouble, Maggie desperately begs her friend to leave, but her friend insists that since she's already at the door, she needs to see Maggie before leaving. For her friend's safety, Maggie is forced to use harsh, hurtful language to drive her away, leaving her friend upset and angry as she departs. But Maggie's emotional outburst causes causes her to vomit all over Big Tony. In his rage, Big Tony slaps Maggie and goes upstairs to find clean clothes, ordering Carla to take her back to the basement. Maggie cleverly appeals to Carla's maternal instincts as a fellow woman, explaining that for the baby's health, she hopes Carla can help her get some medication. While Carla searches for medicine, Maggie seizes the opportunity to slip the spare key into her pocket. To avoid suspicion, she even takes one of the pills. On the way back, Maggie chats with Carla and learns that Carla also has children. But when the topic of names comes up, Carla refuses to share and locks Maggie back in the basement. Watching Carla leave, Maggie excitedly pulls out the key. Leo remembers there's a car parked in the warehouse and tells Maggie to go to the garage while he gets the car keys. After opening the door, he deliberately leaves the basement key inside this time. Maggie then opens the side door leading to the garage. On her way, she notices a book left in the robber's car. Meanwhile, Leo has just started climbing the stairs when he notices the robbers searching for food. He quietly sneaks into the office, but discovers Carla reading a magazine. To avoid drawing Carla's attention, Leo carefully reaches for the key box. Once he has it, Leo looks at Carla's reflection in the mirror, sensing that the magazine holds some unknown secrets. Leo quietly closes the office door and returns to the garage. The couple sits in the car, waiting for the garage door to open, but as soon as they leave the garage, the car engine is too loud and attracts the robbers' attention. However, around the bend, another car in the road blocks Leo and Maggie's escape. Back in the basement, Big Tony furiously demands to know how they escaped from the locked room. Maggie claims the basement door wasn't even closed, but Big Tony clearly doesn't believe this excuse and pulls out his knife, pointing it at Maggie's belly. In this critical moment, Carla steps in and says she forgot to lock it, successfully redirecting Big Tony's anger toward herself. She hopes Big Tony will forgive her, but instead receives a punch to the face. Leo then explains that they had no intention of calling the police minus they just wanted to leave because they can't afford to involve law enforcement. That $250 Zorro is dirty money, though Big Tony doesn't understand what Leo is talking about. It turns out Leo, as a doctor, has been using his position to illegally sell prescription drugs, which is how they afford their luxurious lifestyle. He even proposes that Big Tony become his business partner, painting a picture of a bright future together. Big Tony seems convinced, and the two men appear to reach an agreement, but then Big Tony suddenly strikes Leo, making it clear he doesn't believe a word of what Leo just said. He warns that if there's another escape attempt, he'll send the family of three to their reunion permanently. As they leave, Maggie tells Leo that the robbers have seen his book minus clearly they didn't choose them randomly. Suddenly, Carla bursts back in and demands to know where the keys are. The couple doesn't want to answer, but fearing Carla will tell Big Tony, Maggie reluctantly reveals the keys are under the tray. Maggie asks Carla why she's helping them. Carla responds that she's not helping them minus she's helping the baby. Suddenly, Big Tony returns and takes Leo upstairs. Watching Leo being dragged away, Maggie frantically pounds on the door, but it's useless. For the sake of her baby, she forces herself to calm down. She suddenly remembers the baby monitor and pulls it out to see Leo tied to a pillar. Seeing the two robbers leave, Maggie quickly presses the voice button to comfort Leo, but then the monitor dies, and Maggie dejectedly hides it again. But dangerous developments keep coming minus Maggie feels liquid between her legs. Thinking her water has broken and she's going into labor, she screams for the robbers to help her. Fortunately, Carla hears her cries and comes to check. It's not labor minus just some discharge. She asks if Maggie can stand up so she can help her take a shower. During the shower, Maggie asks about Carla's son and who he's living with now. Carla explains that the prison doctor took her child away minus she hasn't seen him since birth and doesn't know where he is now. She hands Maggie a towel to get out. Just then, a neighbor rings the doorbell and, hearing no response, threatens to call the police. But the next second, the door slowly opens. The neighbor pushes inside and, seeing Maggie, senses something is wrong. The next moment, he's shot dead and falls to the ground. While watching the two robbers deal with the body, Maggie seizes the opportunity to slip a kitchen knife into her clothes. Big Tony tells Carla to take Maggie back to the basement while he handles disposing of the corpse. On the way down, Maggie asks Carla what her son's name is. She mentions that her husband Leo has already chosen the name Charlie for their unborn child. But the next second, Carla reveals a tattoo on her lower abdomen and leaves the room without saying a word, closing the door behind her. Now Maggie is completely stunned minus both their children have the same name. Emotionally devastated, Maggie collapses to the floor and glances up the ceiling. She then gets up and removes the smoke detector, taking out the battery and putting it into the baby monitor. But when she sees the footage, Maggie is completely shattered by what she hears through the monitor. Minus Leo and Carla know each other and were once lovers. Leo even said that once Carla got out, they would get married. But Leo never expected Carla to actually be released. Now that she's out, they can leave together, and he can even give Carla everything she's always wanted. But then she hears the door opening. Big Tony asks Maggie if she knows where Carla is. Instead of answering, Maggie asks Big Tony when the two of them first met. She even suggests that Carla will take the money and leave alone. But Big Tony doesn't believe this and points his gun at Maggie. Just then, Carla appears with Leo, breaking the standoff. After Big Tony and Carla leave, Maggie confronts Leo about everything she witnessed on the monitor. But Leo claims he was just deceiving Carla minus she was his patient in prison and is mentally unstable, constantly fantasizing about marrying him. Out of humanitarian concern, Leo says he had to pretend to comfort her. He begs Maggie to trust him, insisting that his heart belongs only to Maggie and their baby. The next moment, he discovers the weapon Maggie has hidden. This time, Leo remains very calm, believing the weapon should only be used at the critical moment. He embraces Maggie as he speaks, but then Maggie's water actually breaks. Leo quickly helps her to the side, then shouts and pounds on the door for the robbers to come help. Maggie takes the opportunity to hide the baby monitor. Fortunately, Carla rushes over to help Maggie with the delivery, but just as the two are helping Maggie upstairs, Big Tony suddenly appears and orders Leo to stay in the basement. Leo, concerned about his child and Maggie, can only keep pounding frantically on the door. Seeing no response, Leo becomes increasingly panicked. Thankfully, with Carla's help, Maggie successfully reaches the bedroom. But when Carla asks Big Tony to get the first aid kit from the garage, he flatly refuses. Desperate, Carla says she doesn't want the money minus she only wants this baby. Big Tony thinks Carla is joking, but seeing her expression, he realizes she's serious and turns to fetch the kit. Meanwhile, Leo in the basement is using his weapon to break down the door, but hearing Big Tony coming downstairs, he stops his efforts. Fortunately, Big Tony moves quickly and soon returns upstairs with the first aid kit, allowing Leo to resume his escape attempt. At the same time, seeing Maggie's pained expression, Carla shares that she went through the same thing during her own delivery. When Maggie says Leo is the baby's father, right? Carla's expression becomes frantic. Maggie then asks what else Leo has been involved in. Carla doesn't hide the truth minus Leo handled the drugs while Carla took care of sales. Although she wasn't Leo's only woman, she was his favorite. Just then Big Tony hands over the first aid kit, and Maggie is stunned minus she never expected Carla to be so well minus prepared. At the same moment, Leo has just managed to break open the basement door. Maggie successfully delivers a baby girl, but Carla shows no intention of letting Maggie see her child. Carla efficiently cleans up and picks up the baby, preparing to leave. Maggie still holds onto a glimmer of hope, begging Carla not to take her child. At that moment, Big Tony walks in and asks Carla if she's finished. Carla initially wants to show Big Tony the baby, but the next second, she stabs him with a knife instead. Seeing Carla's decisive killing, Maggie panics and falls off the bed. Carla speaks to the baby, saying, "I'm going to be your mommy now." She then picks up a weapon and aims it at Maggie. Just then, Leo reaches the bedroom doorway and sees the body on the floor. He quickly intervenes to stop Carla, explaining that the police will definitely notice everything that's happened. Fortunately, Leo still has secret accounts that can buy fake identities to take Carla and the baby to another country. But to prove his loyalty, Leo says he must kill Maggie. Seeing this monster's true nature, Maggie punches him unconscious with one blow. She turns her head, expecting Carla to shoot her, but discovers that Carla has already disappeared with the baby. Hearing the baby's cries, Maggie immediately follows. Just outside the room, she sees Carla preparing to drive away, ignoring the pain from her lower body. Maggie takes advantage of the moment while Carla is moving the car to quickly open the car door, grab her baby, and hide in the nearby wood. When Carla finishes moving the car and goes back to check, the baby has vanished, but the blood trail on the ground gives Carla a direction to pursue. Maggie clutches her baby while hiding in various spots, watching Carla's movements. Suddenly, someone appears behind Carla with a rock minus it's Leo. After knocking Carla down, he picks up the gun and starts searching for Maggie. Seeing this scene, Maggie quickly gets up and moves to a different hiding spot, but then the baby's cries attract Leo's attention. He follows the sound and indeed discovers something unusual. However, when he quietly approaches, Maggie isn't behind the tree minus she's hiding nearby and seizes the opportunity to grab Leo's gun. But Leo isn't afraid because he knows Maggie won't dare to shoot. He even threatens to use his medical credentials to tell everyone that Maggie has postpartum mental problem, have her committed to a psychiatric hospital, and then claim custody of the baby. But Leo forgot that when a woman becomes a mother, her courage changes too. After the gunshot, Maggie lowers the weapon, still not fully processing that she just fired for the first time. The baby's crying nearby snaps her back to reality. Maggie picks up her child and successfully finds Leo's phone. She then collapses to the ground and dials 911.